Tuesday. It is the 28th of January. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. Our top stories today. We begin with more breaking news from Ukraine at this hour. Lawmakers in Kiev have just voted to repeal the country's anti-protest laws, which have fueled so much unrest. The decision follows a resignation offer from Ukraine's prime minister a few hours ago. Dana Magne joins us now live from Kiev. And Dana, let's first start with this vote to get rid of this law that was something that none of the protesters that have been out there have been fighting against. But that's just the tip of the iceberg here.
Well, I mean, that law was passed on January the 16th, and these protesters have been out here since the end of November. So it's all well and good to get rid of laws that effectively criminalized each and every one of them.
Dana, thank you so much. Dana Magne there live for us from Kiev. Let's bring you up to date on some of the other stories we're following here at CNN News Center. Egypt's ousted President Mohamed Morsi was back in a Cairo courtroom today. He and a number of co-defendants face charges related to a jailbreak in 2011. Mr. Morsi also faces charges in several other trials. This comes as a presidential spokesman says a senior aide to Egypt's interior minister was killed today. He said General Mohammed was fatally shot in Cairo. State media call it an assassination. The former leader of the Bosnian Serb army, Ratko Mladic, has called the International War Crimes Tribunal at The Hague a satanic court. Mladic was summoned to appear as a defense witness in the trial of Bosnian Serb political leader Radovan Karadzic, who tried to get his former general to admit that Karadzic had never ordered any atrocities, but Mladic denied him that support and refused to answer questions. The Thai government says a general election will go ahead this weekend, despite threats by opposition protesters to disrupt the polls. Thailand's deputy prime minister says a majority of people want the election to be held. Shots were fired at a Thai army facility on Tuesday where Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra was holding meetings with the election commission. 2 people were injured. More bird flu cases have been reported in China as the country prepares for the annual Lunar New Year migration. Hong Kong has started culling 20,000 chickens after a sample of live poultry imported from mainland China tested positive for bird flu. 19 people died this month after contracting the H7N9 strain of the virus. Police in Japan have arrested a factory worker over suspicions he may have poisoned frozen food with pesticides. Toshiki Abe denies contaminating the food with a chemical used to kill mosquitoes and head lice. Almost 3,000 people fell ill across Japan after eating the frozen meals. You are watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. Within hours, U.S. President Barack Obama will deliver his State of the Union address. He is expected to talk about the growing gap between America's rich and poor and what he plans to do to narrow it. We'll take you live to Washington straight ahead. CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. I'm Monita Rajpal. U.S. President Barack Obama delivers his State of the Union address in Washington later today. Many say it's an opportunity for him to try to jolt his sagging approval numbers as he lays out his blueprint for the year ahead. White House aides say the president will focus on job creation and the increasing divide between America's haves and have-nots. Senior White House correspondent Brianna Keeler joins us now from the White House with more on that. Brianna?
Good morning. Yeah, this shows you in a way just, I think, the kind of odds that President Obama is confronting and really trying to get something done.
Brianna, thank you. Brianna Keeler there live for us in Washington. Well, half a century after the U.S. government declared war on poverty, that battle is still being waged. Nearly 47 million Americans are just scraping by, doing what they can to get food on the table and keep a roof over their head. And it may get even tougher. Lawmakers have reached a deal in Congress on legislation that could cut $8 billion from the food stamps program over the next decade. Poppy Harlow spoke with one woman about the struggle to survive in the biggest economy on earth.
50 years ago, this country launched a war on poverty.
Negotiators in Geneva are trying to break an impasse over the future of Syria. Peace talks in the Swiss city have hit a wall over the best way to manage the country's political future. And an earlier deal to free women and children trapped and starving in homes, well, that appears to be falling apart. Those who did manage to escape the violence are now eking out an existence at refugee camps. Atika Schubert spoke to one Syrian man who was forced to leave his whole life behind, and it's a life that spans more than a century. Let's get a check now of weather. Never-ending winter storms are gripping parts of Europe and the U.S. Mari Ramos is at the World Weather Center with more on that. Mari?
Hello, Monita. You know, across parts of Eastern Europe, winter started off very, very mild, almost like spring, but now throughout the day today. Back to you.
Right. Mari, thank you very much. Draining the Queen's coffers. British lawmakers say royal finances are being mismanaged, leaving the Palace Reserve Fund at an all-time low, even as historic buildings are left to crumble. Max Foster joins us now from London with more on this. And Max, how did this happen?
Well, it's interesting. They've only recently started revealing more detail about the accounts of the palace. And
all right, Max, thank you very much. Max Foster there live for us from London. You are watching CNN News Center. I'm Monita Rajpal at CNN Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us. I'll update you the news headlines in just a few minutes.